I'm often reflecting with the idea of give the devil its due.
Mhm.
There's a reason I watch porn for so many years. There's a reason people go to McDonald's or they
Mhm.
go to the Burger King or whatever their fast food. There's a reason people watch Netflix and binge 10 seasons, in their
Mhm.
weekend. So you got to give it, well, what is that? You know, why should I give up these things? Why should I give up the feeling? And because if you can't give a good enough reason to give them up, you won't, right?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
we talked earlier about be a monk or be married or be a monk. Why? Why can't I have my cake and eat it too? Why can't I sleep with whoever I want? As long as I'm not hurting anybody. And these are the thoughts that come up with that. So,
Sure.
or fasting, even starting simple with fasting, what would you say on how to confront those thoughts?
I think the answer is found in a spiritual context, and you're not going to be able to find the wherewithal to do what you need to do without it. That was the case for me. So that you have to you have to experience what I call seeing a little bit behind the veil, right? Which is just to kind of keep it as simple as everybody to kind of follow here. You have to know God exists, I think, fundamentally. Even, I mean, you mentioned attachment to sensation. Even alcoholics, I mean, part of the AA, I think step one or step two is something like you have to give power over to a higher being. You have to accept that. You have to accept that. That's the strongest rationality for you getting where you want to go, right? So for me, when I started meditating, so when I started taking meditation seriously, I had moments where I would frequently kind of peek behind the veil and I would become the observer. I would become the witness. And there wasn't a doubt in my mind that I experienced something that was beyond my mind and beyond my body. Nobody convinced me otherwise of that. And that's something that you're going to have to find out through yourself. It doesn't have to be meditation. There are many different ways to get to the top of the mountain. You just have to find your own way. But once you do get that glimmer, once you do peek behind and you see that past the tangible right here, past the matrix, the Maya, what the Hindus would call it, there is the understanding that you are this infinite being, right? And self-actualization is hindered when you're attached to this. You're attached to this. So when you're attached to McDonald's, when you're attached to promiscuous lifestyle, you become addicted to sensation. You become attached to the tangible, right? And if you're ever going to get to self-realization, which is God realization, you can't be attached to the physical. So you have to come to this moment and realize that you have to start practicing some of these things that get you back looking behind that veil. Fasting, meditation, all these things, abstinence from sexual activity or watching sexual material is all an attempt to come back to this observer, to not be attached to the sensations of the body or the addictive tendency of the mind. It's all, and I know God is a divisive word, and if you're not spiritually inclined or religiously inclined yet, you're kind of passing this off. But and I know it's trite to say, I know it's cliche to say, but I'm telling you, I was the hardest atheist you would have ever met
Mm.
when I was 19, 20, 21 years old. As
Hawkins
soon
said the
as
same
somebody,
thing.
yeah, I mean, I tell you what, I couldn't watch Paul Chek because he just every single time talking about God, talking about spirit, talking about, I was just like, shut the fuck up, man. I'm just trying to learn like some exercise techniques. Why do you keep making this shit so esoteric? Just come back down to earth for a minute here. And I couldn't deal with it. But you're also asking really big questions here, big questions that people want to know the answer to. One of the existential crises we're having is attachment to the senses. And the only way you can have a strong enough why to overcome that is the knowledge that you are God, that you're having a human experience and you want to come back home. And there isn't a doubt in my mind that I've experienced a glimpse behind that. And once you do, there won't be going there
Now,
won't be going back.
when people hear that I am God, what is he talking about, Joseph? What are you talking
Yeah.
about? I am God.
Yeah, what an ego trip.
Yeah, right. So, and I'll share, and then just push back on what your thoughts are. But when I hear you say this idea of I am God, when the ego says it, horrible,
Yeah. Yeah.
because then I am, and then it's all about me. But what I hear you when you say that is, do you have the courage to say that honestly?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think those who, because one person can say it and another person can say, how do you know which one? One pastor can, and now, and similar to you, if 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you'd think I'd be making videos talking about Christ so much more. I, I'd say you're crazy, but
Mhm.
I'm seeing it now because one
Mhm.
person says, praise Jesus, and I'm just shut off. And another
Yeah.
person says, I just saw a TikTok video pop up. And this guy's like, how do you get a one night stand? I'll send it to you if you haven't seen it. How do you get this one night stand? He says back to me, he goes, you don't need a one night stand. He says, repent and seek the gospel.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
And
Great.
yeah,
Brilliant.
it's
Gives you
followed.
hope again.
Yeah. But what was so
Mhm.
cool about it was that I see there was life in that guy's face. It
Mhm.
wasn't a fakeness. It wasn't like repent and find Jesus. It was just, bro, seek God first, and you'll be taken care of. You'll be taken care of with a beautiful wife, with a family, with whatever you deep down really want. And I think this other idea of the paradox that I found in my life as well is this, seek first the kingdom of heaven, and
Mhm.
everything else will be given to you. So when we seek the sex, or we seek, food, or the material, as we the matrix Maya,
Mhm.
we become more bound to it. But when we seek that behind it, like as you've
Yeah.
said, we get all of those things, and we get them at the
100%.
right time when we need it. And it's such a, as much as I say that right now, I say it, it just sounds like such gold when I say it, but living it, there's still a part of me that's
Yeah.
still disconnected from that. And as you said earlier, right, it's still on that path. And that's the human condition, right? That's, I guess the fact that we are even having this conversation, makes me think of like what, when Christ says, when two are speaking in my name, I am there, or something along those lines of that quote, is that it's when we're speaking about this, we're having this conversation, we're bringing that kingdom of heaven in my
Mhm.
view,
Mhm.
because it's
100%.
realized, it's a way of seeing that world.
Mm. And I love how you started that off, because many people will attribute that to being spoken at the level of the ego. I am God,
Mm.
you know, and you get wrapped up in identity. I mean, that's one of the biggest problems today, is that people are so wrapped up in identity and personal perception of things. When I say I am God, I'm trying the best I can to speak it at the level of that witness, of that observer. The Hindus call it the Atman. You can call it the Christian soul. You can call it Christ within. That's those are the moments when I talk about peeking behind the veil, and I'm there. I'm trying to bring that presence with me everywhere I go. And that's what I mean when I say that I am God, and you're God too. You just haven't realized it yet. You're
Yeah.
too attached to ego that you won't see it.